Takamichi, our protagonist, was a talentless student who got reincarnated and ended up in hell where he became an incubi, a legendary race that levels up by breaking beds. With this, he became the strongest in hell, and after he ends a long battle against the Goblin King, Gil, the King of Hell, commends his many achievements by declaring him a demon lord. However, Takamichi isn't enthusiastic about it, so he announces his departure. Just then, Drex, one of the commanders, asks Gil why he rolls with an otherworlder when he has blood-related princes to choose from. In response, Gil explains that none of them has the tremendous powers Takamichi has, which grant Takamichi control of the demons and became a commander of the whole army in just 10 years. Meanwhile, Takamichi thinks of how long it has been since he transitioned from being a talentless school student to a hero who suppressed hell after going from place to place. As he heads out, he runs into some ladies who gladly offer to keep him busy and sweaty at night. However, Takamichi decides to go home with Lulu, Gil's daughter. Back in his crib, they made noises loud and sweet enough to make the bachelor next door ruin his sheets. But when Takamichi finishes, he figures all he did was farm gene points since he needed to do crazy stuff, like clapping an elf to unlock a new skill. Knowing there are no elves in hell, he figures it's mission impossible. Just then, he gets interrupted by his workout buddy, who then commends his ability to increase his strength through thrusting activities. When Takamichi thanks her and asks if it's okay for a princess to get folded by a playboy like him, Lulu says that her pops would be glad if he finds out, since he's indebted to Takamichi. As an incubi, there are many requirements for unlocking skills that he can't find in hell, so Takamichi figures he needs area travel. Since his skill tree is still massive and is topped by an ultimate skill, Takamichi wonders if he'll become a god after unlocking it. So he desires to leave hell and climb his way to the top of his skill tree. Suddenly, Lulu interrupts him by requesting another round of burning calories, but just when he obliges and prepares to dive in, Drex contacts him through telepathy and informs him that something interesting appeared on the frontier, and it might be the answers he has been searching for. On the frontier, the soldiers run for their lives, and as they get attacked by a commander-class chimera, Takamichi arrives and hits the beast's face with a kick strong enough to send it flying. After the beast crash lands, Takamichi comments on how easy that went, but the beast retaliates with high-level magic. However, Takamichi quickly casts a defensive spell and realizes the beast isn't from hell. Afterwards, Takamichi snaps his fingers and takes it out. Some moments later, Takamichi confirms that the chimera came out of a nearby cave and tells a soldier to report what happened to Gil. He heads into the cave, thinking about the rumors of hidden passages spread throughout hell, and has been looking for one of those that will send him out of hell. So, after a while in the cave, he finds a teleport gate. As he heads towards it, he flashes back to all the memories he made in hell and figures he's going to miss it. In Heltera, the new world, Aura runs through the forest while her pursuers look around for her. While she hides behind a tree and prays for protection, a goblin finds her and tugs at her clothes. Aura struggles to be free, but the goblins threaten to sacrifice her to their lord. After exposing her honeypot, the goblin decides to get a taste while Aura tearfully tells them to stop. Suddenly, the goblin's teeth get rearranged one after another, surprising Aura. Takamichi then comments that he went through so much just to arrive in a world that's not peaceful. After this, he asks Aura if she could stand, but she was too fixated on his joystick. Unaware, Takamichi explains that the gate had a magic barrier so strong he thought he'd die. Just then, he catches Aura staring and asks her what she's staring at. Suddenly, Aura freaks out and calls him a cultured idiot while he tries to get her to calm down. To his surprise, Aura grabs his magnum and asks what he's planning to do to her. Just then, Takamichi realizes he's without clothes and freaks out. Suddenly, Aura begins to drool all over his sausage while Takamichi tries to talk some sense into her. However, when he spots her throat and feels her pillows rub on his thigh, he suddenly transcends to a place in his mind where he meets a rider in metallic armor, who then tells him that his endurance and morals were unnecessary since he's an incubus. Suddenly, the rider tells Takamichi to unleash the black sword, so his tool gets bigger and stronger while Aura clears her throat with it. Thinking he's about to pass out, Takamichi decides to reciprocate the energy. He then puts her in a great position and plays the fiddle till she lets it all out. Afterwards, Takamichi realizes he has unlocked a new skill after a long time, so he checks it out and realizes Aura is from a rare race. While he marvels at her abilities and wonders if he should use her more, Aura awakens from her beauty nap and asks about where she is. Seeing this, Takamichi lights up and says she was amazing, but Aura, on the other hand, tears up and screams when she realizes it wasn't a dream. So, Takamichi apologizes while she calls him a cultured monster and tells him to vanish. She then beats herself up for letting her monsters come out to play. Curious, Takamichi asks what she was doing in the forest, and Aura reveals that she was looking for medicinal herbs since she's a doctor. Hearing this, Takamichi asks about the dead goblins, and Aura says they were local bandits who could be Baton's subordinates. So, Takamichi suggests that she leave since the goblins' friends are probably looking for them. However, Aura says she can't, since she needs to get a rare orange stone crop to make medicine. Suddenly, Takamichi checks out Aura's skill tree and unlocks her medicinal herb detection skill. Stunned, Aura feels something, and she immediately heads to a spot in the forest where she finds the rare orange stone crop. Surprised, Aura wonders how she just knew where it was, so she asks Takamichi if he did something. But he denies this, knowing that recipients of his juice automatically become his followers, and he can unlock their skills using gene points he saved up. After this, he points out that Aura has found her herbs and adds that he'd like to learn about the world, so he offers to escort her to her village. As they head towards the village, Takamichi comments on the blue skies and green earth. After this, he asks Aura how much longer it would take to arrive at her house. In response, Aura says they're almost home and tells him to stay formal with her since they're not that close yet. On hearing this, Takamichi states that she's being cold after all the fun they had together, but Aura says something happened to her and she lost control. Just then, Takamichi accuses her of assaulting him, but Aura denies this and tells him to say whatever he wants. When she thanks him for saving her and escorting her home, Aura advises Takamichi to avoid her for his safety. So, Takamichi asks if she said that because of Baton, and she explains that Baton is not someone who can be reasoned with and adds that he will undoubtedly seek revenge. Hearing this, Takamichi comments that no one in the world can steal girls that he likes, surprising Aura, who then calls him an idiot. Afterwards, they arrive at Aura's village and run into a boy who couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Aura. Suddenly, he announces to everyone that Aura is back. So, when the villagers show up to welcome her, Amira, Aura's sister, runs into her arms while weeping and saying she thought she would never see her again. Just then, the mayor of the village asks Aura how she escaped from Baton's men, and she explains that she was saved by Takamichi. So the mayor thanks him and begs him, while adding that he could stay in the village. Without thinking too hard, Takamichi accepts the offer, and minutes later, while they eat, he devours the meat like a ferocious beast. After commenting on the deliciousness of the food, Takamichi announces that he's never going back to hell. Aura then tells him to keep shut at the table, but the mayor tells him to ignore that. In addition, she says they would have let him play with one of their girls, but there aren't many young girls in the village. On hearing this, Takamichi asks if it's because of Baton, and the mayor explains that, since he's a beast with a hunger for women, his bandits prowl the mountains to kidnap women who are then taken to Baton's stronghold, where he uses them till they take their lives. Takamichi figures that Baton is irredeemable and evil, so he asks why they didn't resist, and one of the men states that they couldn't stand up to him, and they couldn't bear the disgrace, so they requested help from the Guard Association. However, this led to the death of many young men in the village. To make matters worse, the Guards Association claimed they couldn't spare soldiers for a remote village, since they were busy with a war against the goblins. In addition to this, the villagers explained that they couldn't relocate their elders without using the highway, which houses Baton's stronghold. Just then, some dude says they're glad he saved Aura since they had plans to risk their lives just to save her. Shocked, Aura says they shouldn't have to do something like that for her, but the mayor states that it's okay because she was entrusted to the village by her mother. Afterwards, one of the guys points out that Takamichi could save the village with his power since he beat Baton's men, but Takamichi immediately says he's not interested and thanks them for the meal. As he walks out, the dude gets angry, but the mayor stops him by saying that Takamichi has no obligation to help them more than he has. Meanwhile, at Baton's mansion, a goblin loses his head while another begs for forgiveness. At the same time, some ladies entertain Baton with their melons and mouths. However, this doesn't quell Baton's anger as she berates the goblins for failing to seize a woman. While the ladies feast on him, Baton calls on Violet, and when she shows up, he orders her to bring him more women and Takamichi's head. Later, in a dream, Aura's mother announces that they'll be having a popular vegetable soup and tells them to eat as much as they want, leaving the kids excited. However, some moments later, Marla gets pounded by Baton while Aura watches from the cupboard where she hid. Just when Marla tells her to take care of Emira, Aura wakes, screaming for her mum. Suddenly, Takamichi shows up beside her and asks if she had a bad dream. Dumbfounded, Aura stares back silently, so Takamichi points this out and asks if she has fallen for him. Suddenly, he gets tossed out the door as Aura asks what he's doing in her house. When Takamichi comments that she's strong, Aura asks why he's in her house when the mayor has shown him to his house. Just then, Aura spots Emira sitting nearby and is surprised that she's awake. Emira then says she was awoken by the smell of Takamichi's cooking, surprising Aura. Afterwards, while they eat together, Takamichi asks why they don't have the same ears as the villagers. So Aura explains that the feathered ears are a trait of the Kukulu race and adds that her family isn't originally from the village. On tasting the meal, Aura comments that it's delicious, so Takamichi explains that it's a recipe from his homeland. After this, he states that he enjoyed cooking for a long time, but since the people around him had bad taste, they didn't think much of him. When he speaks of how nice it is that people who would enjoy his cooking actually exist, Aura rises and tells him to come with her. Afterwards, they arrive in a room where Takamichi looks around and says it looks like a laboratory. At the same time, Aura bolts the door and asks if he could leave the village after breakfast, surprising Takamichi, who then asks if she's chasing him out. He then asks if she's trying to make him run because she's scared of Baton and states he's tired of people like Baton. When he turns around to face Aura, he gets an HD view of her milky bits on display and freaks out. Just then, Aura lets her silky garments fall while asking Takamichi if he wants to dive in. When she insinuates that his goal must be her body, Aura says she'll let him knock himself out while at it if he'll run away from the village. Surprisingly, Takamichi hits her head and says that the food tastes the same when cold. However, he adds that he likes his food and girls piping hot, leaving Aura shocked. While Aura gets her clothes back on, Takamichi figures he could get a skill by giving in, and in turn he could get rid of Baton, but he won't be satisfied. Not long after this, while some guards chat in the village, someone shows up and puts the guards on edge. Suddenly, someone barges into Aura's house, telling Aura and Takamichi that Baton's subordinate is coming for them. But Takamichi asks the informant what the person looks like. On hearing it's a young girl, Aura says it must be Baton's elite and suggests that Takamichi run into the forest, but he tells her to relax and says that he'll check it out. Outside, the guards get ready for a fight while Violet takes a boy hostage and threatens to make his head roll if they don't provide her targets. When Violet says she's not in the mood to spill blood, the mayor asks her why an SS rank assassin of the Adventurers Association became a servant of Baton. In response, Violet says it's none of her business and commands the people to bring Takamichi and Aura. Suddenly, she spots the guards staring weirdly and asks if they're listening to her. Just then, takes a peek at her silky garments and comments that it's white. After this, he tells her not to get angry since all he saw was her cheek hammock. Immediately, Violet attacks him with a force that throws some bystanders off balance, but to her surprise, the dust clears, and she realizes she only stabbed the floor. On looking up, she spots Takamichi, who then points out that her destructive power is on the same level as one of the Hell Army's centurions. When the hostage boy thanks Takamichi, he tells everyone to stay back, but they warn him to escape since Violet is a monster with 2 names. So they reveal that Violet once single-handedly subjugated a Minotaur and is responsible for ending so many famous people. But Takamichi only finds this interesting. So he wonders what skills await him at the end of her tunnel and grabs Violet's hand when she lunges at him. To her dismay, Takamichi grabs her wonder bubble with his other hand, surprising the bystanders who think he'll die for it. Mid-air, Takamichi gets notified of his first unlock while Violet grabs her knife to gut him like a pig. But Takamichi slices through the knife with his bare hands, surprising Violet as he knocks what's left of the dagger off her hands and pins her to the ground. Impressed by this, the bystanders comment on Takamichi's amazing taijutsu, so Takamichi offers to overlook her attack and even take care of Baton if she lets him hit it once. To convince her, Takamichi points out that a woman of her caliber shouldn't be allied with villains and says it's better for her to be free than to be enslaved. Suddenly, Violet activates magic circles with her eyes and shoots beams from them, which Takamichi barely dodges. Surprised, the villagers point out that it's the demon eye, which is an extremely rare skill that very few people are born with. Suddenly, Violet vanishes and reappears above Takamichi while holding his head. Seeing this, the villagers figure it's the end for Takamichi, and in seconds, Violet launches a devastating attack that blasts through a building nearby. After this, she catches her breath and states that the spell uses a lot of magic. Just when she tells Takamichi to go to hell, she couldn't believe her eyes as she spots him walking out of the wreck unscathed. When he asks Violet if she's really an assassin, Violet marvels at this and suddenly spots his incubus mark. Immediately, she jumps at him and grabs his pecker while asking if he did something to her. So, Takamichi turns to ask a man if he could borrow a well-soundproof room since he's going to torture the enemy. The man then suggests that he use a basement nearby. A few moments later in the basement, Takamichi announces that it's time to have some fun while Violet is chained up and dripping. Suddenly, Takamichi sets her chest handles free while she lashes out. He then fiddles with her sweet buttons and interrogates her. When she gets annoyed and threatens to end Takamichi, he gives her a view of his machinery and she is love-struck again. So Takamichi gets busy fiddling with her chest buttons and makes her scream repeatedly. After this, he decides to switch to the main course, but Violet begs him to keep off it. However, Takamichi reaches for her sweet spot but gets stung. So he wonders what just happened since he felt like he was struck by high-level lightning. Seeing this, Violet says that exploring her tunnels is mission impossible, since her body is a sacrifice to the demon lord, and an inferior creature like him doesn't stand a chance. She then further explains that the demon eye is a rare ability which confers on its owner an extremely powerful skill as well as a curse where they can't be clapped by anyone other than the demon lord. Because of this, most girls can't bear the suffering of abstinence and either take their own lives or go on a journey seeking the demon lord, since he's the only one who can extinguish their suffering. However, since hell has disappeared for 1,000 years, the demon lord has become just a fairy tale. On hearing this, Takamichi asks if she didn't do anything with Baton, and she says that he would have lost his tool if he tried. Afterwards, Violet explains that she's in a business relationship with Baton, where she's lending him her power in exchange for information on the demon lord. She then states that she has never hurt a villager and offers to compensate Takamichi for the damages if he lets her go. But to her surprise, Takamichi slides in his tool and sends her mind into a frenzy. While she wonders how this happens, Violet realizes why everyone is crazy about getting laid. Suddenly, she figures that Takamichi is the demon lord while he sets her free, and they spend hours burning calories. After he knocks her out, Takamichi checks out his new follower and realizes she's at risk, so he calls her over and hits her navel with a demon hand technique, which makes her vomit a poisonous water insect, which follows the order of its owner and explodes in its target's body. Surprised to see this, Violet wonders when Baton put that in her, so she angrily smashes the insect and thanks Takamichi with a hug. Later, when Takamichi steps out of the basement, Aura asks if he smashed Violet, but since he doesn't answer, she congratulates him on smashing a beauty. Takamichi then says that he's a womanizer and not a people-saving hero. In addition to this, he tells her to stop whatever illusion she has of him since he's essentially the same as Baton. After this, Takamichi asks if she thinks he's scary, but instead she responds by calling him an idiot and a savage. Meanwhile, at Baton's stronghold, he gets notified that Takamichi survived Violet's demon eye. The messenger then rates Takamichi as a rare or even an epic, while also revealing that Violet was captured by a psychological attack. In response, Baton asks if he should dispose of Violet with the insect, but the spy reveals that the insect has been squashed. After this, he expresses his concern about Violet's powers, but Baton tells him not to panic since they've only lost a piece when they have many more. Baton then states that they'll be fine as long as they remain in the castle and wonders how they can deal with the situation. Back in the village, the people packed the rubble created from Violet's attack while Aura tended to the wounds of the injured. She then apologizes to them for fighting on her behalf, but the wounded soldier says it's nothing since she's always saving them. From a distance, Takamichi and the mayor watch her work, so the mayor points out that she's a good girl, but Takamichi can only think of her humongous racks. Hearing this, the mayor asks him if he has dealt with Violet, and he assures her that they don't have to worry about Violet anymore. Shortly after, a man nearby suggests that they continue their conversation about how to subjugate Baton. In response, Takamichi says she's not interested, no matter how much they pay. Annoyed by this, Jack, one of the men, angrily states that Takamichi is no different from the guys who refuse to help them. However, someone tells him to chill out, but he accuses Takamichi of ignoring the lives of the weak despite his strength. When the mayor says it's enough, Jack objects, but stops when Violet points out that he's being too noisy. After this, Violet asks if they want to throw away the lives that Takamichi spared. Just then, Takamichi rises to leave and asks Violet to go with him. On their way, Violet asks if he's really going to leave Baton, but Takamichi reveals that he's got plans, since he can't leave things the way they are. He then states that he plans to make Baton suffer for putting an insect inside her. Sometime later, Aura flashes back to the days when she woke up early to get medicinal herbs while being cautious of bandits. Because she had promised her mum to protect the villagers, she nursed the sick back to health. But because she had no power to fight, she was always protected. Aura has only ever been scared of being unable to protect Amira, so she hides and lives for this, only for people to die for her. So she wakes up one morning and is surprised to see more people in her house, with Amira and Violet requesting a plate of food from Takamichi. After they all ate together, Aura heads out to the wreckage and is surprised to find out that Takamichi took a hit without getting hurt. Just then, someone reveals that Takamichi possesses the strength of an SS rank adventurer, making Aura realize he's not just a stupid man of culture. So, Aura thinks about the changes she experienced since she met him. She could easily sense medicinal herbs when searching for them. Her physical strength increased, and she was also able to create a medicine that only advanced doctors could make. As a result of this, she recovered from the chronic illness she'd been suffering from for many years. So, after taking a bath, Aura combs her hair and laces up a dart with a poison lethal even for someone super strong. On checking Amira's room, Aura finds Takamichi sleeping right beside her, so she figures Amira won't be alone once she's gone. She then plants kisses on them and heads out, determined to end their problems for good. Shortly after, she arrives at Baton's stronghold and walks in like Wonder Woman. Amused by this, Baton identifies her as the girl of the Kukulu race and talks about her looks. After checking her out, Baton tries a cliché line on her and states that he's pleased to please her. He then adds that he has a suspicion and asks why she showed up so suddenly and submissively. In response, Aura says she could never plan against him, but instead she came to negotiate. She then states that she'll serve him with her whole heart if he would release the village girls he captured. Hearing this, the girls exclaim, so Baton beats them while they apologize. Baton then apologizes to Aura for doing that in her presence and tells her to continue. So, Aura reveals that she gave up because she can't escape from him and states her wish to sacrifice herself to save everyone. On hearing this, Baton asks Aura how many girls she thinks she's worth, so Aura thinks for a bit and takes off her clothes. Seeing this, Baton and his goblins go into a frenzy. After this, Baton asks her to open her legs and immediately folds her up while saying he'll never let go of the girls he gets his hands on. After this, Baton says that he once captured another Kukulu girl, but he overused her and she died shortly after. When Aura points out that the girl was her mum, Baton freezes for a bit and suddenly feels a dart pierce his neck. So he pulls it out and says he saw it coming. He then tells Aura that, as a fishfolk, he can't be killed by any normal poison, but before he finishes, Baton coughs up some blood, alarming his subordinates. Just then, he asks Aura why she has a high-level poison. In response, She tells him to die and suffer in hell since her mother's pain was more than his. As she turns to leave, Baton grabs her with some tentacles and puts her on the floor before himself and tells her that she couldn't even dream of ending a royal fishfolk since they have 7 lives. In addition to this, Baton changes his mind and decides to give her 100-fold of what her mother suffered. So he picks Aura up while she regrets her decision and apologizes to her. Just when Baton tries to dive in, Takamichi suddenly cuts through his tentacles, making him scream in agony. Takamichi then apologizes to Aura for ruining her duel and compliments her for making it that far. After this, he announces that everyone else from the village has come to rescue her. Earlier that day, after Aura left the village, Amira notified Joe and the mayor of Aura's sudden disappearance. Shortly after, the village men gather, and while they decide to rescue Aura, Takamichi shows up and tells them to wait, since Baton is stronger than Violet and could destroy them in seconds. However, Jack insists they couldn't watch and let Aura die. Just then, the villagers narrate how Aura's mother cured the village children of an epidemic with some kukuku medicine and risked her life going into the mountains to fetch medicinal herbs. Because of this, the men refuse to back out and insist they have to settle the village's problems. At that moment, Jack touches Takamichi's shoulder and tells him to move out of the way. Seeing Jack's angry face, Takamichi points out that he's making a nice face, and that wouldn't change the fact that they're about to die in vain. He then offers to lend them his strength. So he tells the men to wait while he asks Violet to follow him. Down an alley, Violet puts her throat to good use, and after a few moments, showing off her skills, Takamichi finishes while she empties the juice into a container. Afterwards, they head back to meet the men, and Takamichi says he won't be working for free. He then presents the jar to them while stating that it should be mixed with water and drunk by anyone who wants to fight. So, during the battle at Baton's stronghold, the village men knocked some fear into Baton's army and had fun cutting them down in their numbers. While the men talk about how strong they feel after drinking Takamichi's recipe, Violet points out that Takamichi's juice is the best. On hearing this, the village men took up the chant, hailing Takamichi's juices. In the castle where Takamichi rescued Aura, she hears the chant and asks if he did something to the men. However, Takamichi tells her not to worry about it, making Aura realize he's hiding something. Afterwards, Aura asks Takamichi if he won't be scolding her for challenging Baton and causing trouble for the entire village. But Takamichi rubs her head, saying he's not angry and commends her for everything impressive she has done all by herself. While they talk, Baton's tentacles dash towards Aura, but Takamichi quickly spots this and takes up Aura in his arms. After evading the attack, Takamichi points out that Baton has 7 lives and threatens to dispose of the leftovers quickly. Suddenly, Baton activates a magic circle and launches a tentacle tsunami attack, which surrounds them with tentacles. But Takamichi calls forth 4 demon gates, which then block the tentacles. Surprised, Baton wonders what skill it is while Takamichi retaliates by summoning spikes that impale Baton from the ground. After this, Takamichi taunts Baton by asking how many lives he's got left, but Baton angrily grabs a staff and summons a sea demon, which emerges from the ground and holds Takamichi in its hand. While Takamichi and the beast engage in a staring contest, Baton hypes the beast and tells Takamichi to prepare to be crushed. Suddenly, a larger arm shows up from the ground and grabs the sea demon while Takamichi points out that she doesn't like being held. On seeing this, Baton wonders what in the world he is while the battle goes on outside the castle. Takamichi evades Baton's tentacles and suddenly looks up to find mutant ninja turtles heading his way. However, in one swift move, Takamichi makes their head fly and almost gets eaten by a shark, which appears out of nowhere. But he manages to chop the shark into pieces. Takamichi then tells Baton to quit throwing weird seafood at him, while Baton thinks about the 3 lives he's got left. When he figures that Takamichi didn't get a scratch despite his endless attacks. While watching Takamichi and Aura play lovers in paradise, Baton tries to figure out Takamichi's rank. Suddenly, one of Baton's men rushes in and claims that the summoning team is ready. Surprised to hear this, Takamichi asks Baton if he's not done yet, but Baton seizes the kidnapped village girls with his tentacle and throws them in the air. Annoyed by this, Takamichi rushes to save them while telling Baton not to throw girls into the air. So he catches the three girls midair with a secret technique and is about to taunt Baton again when Aura screams for him to check his hands. Just then, Takamichi realizes he jumped over a strong casting circle and wonders what the circle is. So, Baton strikes the ground with his staff and summons the founding fish person in exchange for one of his lives. When the summoning works, Canaloa, the founding fish person, stares at Takamichi while Baton informs him that Takamichi is an enemy of the fish people. Baton then asks the founding person to lend him his strength, but Canaloa states that the era's royalty are pathetic. However, because he can't just leave, Canaloa introduces himself as the Lord of the Sea and tells Takamichi not to bother introducing himself, since he'll soon be slaughtered like others. However, Takamichi raises his demon sword, which then engulfs Canaloa and leaves Baton gobsmacked. After this, Takamichi asks Baton if he just played his trump card and insinuates that it was boring. While Baton trembles, Takamichi suggests they end the duel, but Baton hurriedly checks his inventory for any items to use. After using a chakra of flame, a giant sea urchin, and a rosary on Takamichi, none of the items were delivered, so Baton trepidates and figures he has nothing left but a holy lasso. So he ties Takamichi up with the lasso, so Takamichi tries to break free of it and realizes he can't use his strength. After he tries to move, Takamichi figures he couldn't, so he wonders what's wrong and on checking his dashboard, gets a warning that he's been contaminated by light magic. Just then, Takamichi checks his light resistance level and figures it's still at 0. Since light magic is not a threat in hell, demons are extremely weak against light magic. While Takamichi blames himself for not leveling up, the ladies wonder what's going on with him. Suddenly, Baton sends him flying with a hit from a giant tentacle, and when he hits the ground, Baton realizes he's not that invincible. Baton then reveals that the item he stole from the church worked. So he captured the ladies with his tentacles and picks Takamichi up too, while announcing that it's time for payback. Not long after this, Baton takes them to a hole in the ground and holds Takamichi over it. He then states that the pit contains the river of deadly poison, which is said to flow straight from hell. Hearing this, Takamichi and the ladies were surprised. So Violet asks why a torrent of black magic is hidden in his castle. Baton then reveals that someone who found the traces of hell on the spot ordered him to build a stronghold and keep guard. He then chips in that even a powerful hero class would melt in the river of hell and suggests that Takamichi take a bath in it. In response, Takamichi says that he'll regret his actions, but Baton says he won't regret crushing an insect like him. So he tosses Takamichi into the river of hell and bids him farewell. As he drops into the river, Takamichi wonders if it's the end for him, while Violet screams his name. Afterwards, Baton announces his intention to cook Violet and Aura, but when Violet resists, he tells her that the mucus from his tentacles has a magic sealing effect and asks if she's been able to use her demon eye. Baton then tries to insert another insect directly into Violet while explaining that the first one was put in a drink. Ignoring this, Violet insults him for ending Takamichi, but while Baton taunts her, he feels a large sword run him through and screams. When he collapses, Takamichi reminds him of his promise to make him regret his action and comments that his trip to hell was relaxing since the holy lasso got melted in the heat. Baton then says that it's impossible that Takamichi escaped the river without a scratch, but soon realizes that he's from hell. Shortly after, the village men arrive and announce that Baton's army has been taken care of. Suddenly, the kidnapped village girls spot their relatives and begin a mini reunion. Baton, on the other hand, figures that the sword inside him drained his magic, leaving him useless. However, he notices that he's neither bleeding nor in pain, but he feels good. Takamichi then reveals that he's healing Baton with his magic, since it's not enough to slay him just once. While Baton calls Takamichi a devil, Takamichi hands Aura a knife and tells her to stab him as many times as she wants, but Aura says she's fine since they already ended him once. Hearing this, one of the kidnapped girls takes the knife and approaches Baton as he begs her to stop. After this, he threatens to slaughter every one of them and burn down their villages for acting rudely towards him. Annoyed by his audacity, everyone jointly hacks him into 1,000,000 pieces. While he bled out and begged for death, Takamichi announces that it's his turn, and on snapping his fingers, Baton finds himself floating in the dark. Suddenly, he finds a girl feasting on his sausage and figures he had been dreaming all along. Just when he thinks there's no way someone as powerful as Takamichi could exist, the girl immediately changes into a ferocious monster feasting on his sausage while he's locked up. Shortly after, Takamichi enters to ask how he's feeling. He then offered to heal him and opened the gate for more monsters to show Baton a great time. Later that day, Takamichi heads to the roof and bumps into Violet, who then points out that half of the day is gone. Hearing this, Takamichi realizes why he feels tired and sleepy. So he heads to the roof, where Aura was sitting, and grabs her melons like stress balls. Sometime later, the village was named after Takamichi, to pay him for fighting for them. When the mayor announces that they've now got manpower and can focus on commercial and military power, Takamichi marvels at this and says they're doing too much. Afterward, the ladies swarm Takamichi with invitations to their rooms to thank him for saving them. Seeing this, Aura gets jealous and angrily leaves the scene while Takamichi tells the ladies they could do that some other time. Later at Aura's house, while she tries out Takamichi's recipe, he suddenly grabs her from behind and asks what she's doing. Startled, Aura asks why he isn't playing with his fans, and he responds by saying he ditched them. Takamichi then asks if she's jealous, but she scoffs and continues her dish. So Takamichi asks if she's practicing his favorite recipe, and Aura states that she has to, since he'll be leaving the village very soon, and Amira likes the dish. Hearing this, Takamichi suddenly realizes there must be some other annoying guy pulling Baton's strings, and he'll have to go to a town or a city if he intends to find him. In addition to this, he figures he has to clap a priest soon to level up his defense against light magic. So he tells Aura that he's not leaving yet, and when he does, it'll be fine since he can return to the village whenever he wants. Upon hearing this, Aura tugs his shirt and asks if he means it, while Takamichi asks if she wants him to say. Feeling awkward, Aura says she only wants him to teach her some other dishes and to thank him properly. Suddenly, Takamichi holds her close and says he's not interested in ordinary thanks. When he tells her not to think he's satisfied with mere cheek kisses, Aura says it was nothing and blushes. She then locks lips with him, surprising Takamichi, who then tells her to quit acting innocent since it's not her first kiss. After this, he asks Aura what he should do next, and she tells him to follow her. Moments later, silky garments flew off, and Takamichi enjoyed the view. He then gets hands-on with her knockers while she makes happy noises. After playing around for a bit, they move to the main course, and Takamichi takes her to paradise. Later, Aura reminds Takamichi that he said he was interested in her, and asks the "what are we now" question. In response, Takamichi exclaims and reveals that he was merely impressed by her talent as a doctor, shocking Aura. For damage control, Takamichi blabs about how he's been with many women, and suggests she make a drug to help him keep the numbers down. While the rage machine in Aura boots, Takamichi also requests an aphrodisiac for his companions, and chips in that they could sell it, annoying Aura, who then screams, calling him a devil. Somewhere else, some nun gives a malnourished man the best ride of his life and asks him how it feels. When the man says he can't believe a commoner like him would ever get the opportunity, the nun tells him not to say that. Suddenly, the man announces that he's about to flood the pipes. After they're done, the nun says that the ritual is over, surprising the man. Just then, another nun chops him in half with a butcher's knife, making him scream. After this, the noonie insinuates that tasting from her honey pot comes at a cost, so while the nuns pray, she states that it had to be done to stop the disaster coming to Heltera. Meanwhile, Takamichi and Violet swim in the river of hell, and Takamichi asks Violet what she thinks of it. In response, Violet says that it feels like her magic is slowly recovering, and adds that she has acclimated to the dark magic. Suddenly, Canaloa comments that having an open-air bath in the river of hell is a crazy idea and asks how Violet is calmly soaking in dark magic without consequences. In response, Takamichi rebukes Canaloa and explains that, as his follower, Violet has become accustomed to the energy of hell. He then asks Canaloa when he made a stone throne. As an ancestor of the fish people, Canaloa's soul has been preserved by a spell, so after he was swallowed by Takamichi's sword, Takamichi hears him beg to be released from the sword. Since he seemed really strong for a hero class and also knows a lot about hell and the world, Takamichi signs a contract to revive him, but hasn't found a suitable body yet. Just then, someone notified Takamichi that some visitors had just arrived from Heltera. Curious, he asks what kind of visitors they are, and the informant reveals they must be royalty. So, Takamichi and Violet get out of the bath. Outside, Marta, Belial's maid, asks the guard how long they're going to make her boss wait, and the guard apologizes. When she won't stop, the guard asks for her name, and she introduces herself as the head maid of the Adrian family. While she whines about country bumpkins being ignorant, Takamichi shows up behind her and rubs her tail on his cheek while commenting on how it feels. Suddenly, Marta throws a tantrum and lectures Takamichi on proper conduct around ladies, so he apologizes. Just then, Violet and Marta recognize each other, and Marta asks Violet why she's in the village when there's a heap of requests for her at the Adventurers Guild. In response, Violet says she quit adventuring to serve Takamichi. Shocked, Marta asks why she'd do that while Takamichi hugs Violet and asks Marta if she's jealous. Marta then accuses him of doing something to Violet and tries to strike him with lightning. However, Belial stoops her and says Takamichi is the one she's looking for. Surprised to hear this, Marta asks if Takamichi is really the guy. Belial points out that he snuck up on her and she didn't notice him. When she arrives on the scene, Belial introduces herself as the president of the Adrian family. When she offers him a hand, Takamichi takes it and stares at her. Afterwards, Belial sniffs him and he asks what she's doing. So Belial says that he has a disgusting, evil scent and also a scent of danger. When she adds that he's just the kind of person she's looking for, Takamichi asks what she means, but she ignores him and exchanges pleasantries with Violet. Violet then asks Belial what's going on, and she tells Marta to hand over the letter. So Marta hands the letter to Takamichi while he asks what the letter for. In response, Belial states that it's an invitation to a party that will be held by the Lord of Heltera. In addition to this, she adds that the news of his subjugation of Baton has spread, and the Lord has prepared a banquet to reward him. Takamichi then asks if it's important, and Violet explains that it's a VIP-only party for different creatures from different kingdoms. On hearing this, Takamichi gets excited and accepts the invitation. So Belial announces their departure and calls Marta. As she climbs into her carriage, Belial says she's looking forward to the next time they meet while Marta disdainfully stares at Takamichi. After the carriage leaves, Takamichi guesses that Heltera is fighting goblins, and Violet confirms this. He then asks her if she thinks Heltera can win, but Violet reveals that they stopped winning when a stronger species appeared. Meanwhile, on the front lines, a gigantic monster appears wearing women-like jewelry, alongside his subordinates. The soldiers of Heltera then assure the captured women that they'll be fine and charge towards the enemy. However, they get wasted in seconds while the hostages suffer. Just then, the soldiers figure they need a hero and call out for one. Sometime later, Takamichi and Violet head to Heltera Castle, and when they arrive, Takamichi points out that it's more of a city than he expected. On entering the city, they leave their horse at a stable since they can't ride horses in the city. After this, Takamichi points out that their trip was peaceful and asks why they didn't run into any goblins. Violet then explains that they came from the south, while the front lines are in the west. Shortly after, they arrive at the city entrance, and the knight stops them to ask if they're visiting for a trade or looking for someone. Just when Takamichi racks his brains for an answer, Violet tosses a coin at the knight, who then catches it and checks it out. After they entered the city, Takamichi comments on how easily they entered the city without using magic, and Violet states that money is helpful, especially during wars. As they explore the city, Takamichi notices the city lacks energy despite its size and asks if it's because of the war. Violet then confirms this by explaining that the city used to be a trading hub until the Goblin calamity. After seeing the suffering and poverty in the city, Takamichi glances at the invitation letter and wonders why the nobles are enjoying a banquet. So he insinuates that Heltera is ruled by 4 nobles, but Violet says it's 5 and adds that the Lord also holds a rank of nobility. After this, Violet lists the noble families and explains what roles they play in ruling Heltera. Shortly after, they arrive at the Adventurers Guild, and on checking out the building, Takamichi says it's been a while since he felt like he was in a different world. So Violet chips in that it's easier to live in Heltera if he's registered at the guild, so they enter the guild and find many adventurers chattering. However, their entrance draws everyone's attention as they whisper about Violet, but Takamichi fades into the background. As she approaches the counter, Regent, an adventurer, stands, commenting on how beautiful she looks. When he adds that he'd like to be Violet's dog, his furry friend tells him to sit. At the counter, the receptionist asks Violet if she's visiting on business, but Violet says she's there for something else and asks if her recommendation is still valid. When the receptionist confirms this, Violet asks if she could register Takamichi, surprising everyone. While they wonder who he is, the receptionist comments that Takamichi must be insanely strong, but he quickly debunks this. The receptionist then takes out a crystal ball and instructs him to touch it to measure his strength. So Takamichi touches the crystal ball, but surprisingly, the receptionist announces that he's just as strong as an ordinary person. Because of this, he gets awarded a D rank, leading to an uproar in the guild. The other adventurers then ask Violet if she recommended him because he's a noble son. Facing Takamichi, Violet accuses him of hiding his true strength, while Regent asks Takamichi how he got close to Violet, being a nobody. While he protests, his furry friend holds him back, making Violet ask if her choice of recommendation has anything to do with the nobles. Just then, Takamichi apologizes for bothering everyone and reveals that Violet is only recommending him because he's her dog. Shocked by this, the adventurers freak out and speculate that Takamichi must be Violet's human toy. Meanwhile, someone requested an ambulance for Regent, who had collapsed from the shock. When Takamichi was asked what it entails being a dog, he explains that he gets stomped and sat on to please his master. Suddenly, the adventurers ask him for tips on how to become Violet's dog, leaving Violet surprised. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Helena, Belial's sister, comments that Violet picked up a new toy when she was away and expresses her wish to play with it too. Later at the Female Martial Arts Guild, Takamichi challenges the ladies to a duel and offers to do whatever they want if he loses. Hearing this, one of the ladies realizes how crazy he was and decides to work him to death after beating him up. However, a few moments later, Takamichi makes the girls happy with his joystick as they take turns having the best time of their lives. While this goes on, Takamichi realizes he has unlocked a new skill by clapping multiple warriors at once. Since there are still lots of requirements for him to ascend the skill tree, he decides to enjoy the city. Somewhere else, some adventurers commend a new archer who has just completed a difficult mission after joining the association. Just then, Helena joins them and asks the archer if he's the new guy. When the archer confirms this and asks if she wants to join his party, the other adventurers quickly announce their departure, while Helena says she just wanted to shake his hand. Since she's a beautiful lady, the archer shakes her, and suddenly Helena snaps it in half, making the poor dude scream. Seeing this, the other adventurers feel bad while he rolls on the floor. Helena then points out that the arm he's so proud of is weak. While she talks down on him, the archer asks why she did it, and Helena explains that she hates when people become stuck up after gaining a bit of talent. Curious, some adventurer asks who she is, and someone explains that Helena is the second daughter of the Silence family who does whatever she pleases because she's an SS rank. After this, Helena calls her servant when she spots Takamichi and identifies him as Violet's puppy. Meanwhile, Takamichi chats with some new friends he made, but stops when he feels a hand on his shoulder. When he turns, he realizes it's Helena's servant. Suddenly, he vanishes and appears behind Helena with a polite bow, surprising Helena and her guards prepare to deal with Takamichi, but she stops them and commends him for knowing his position. In response, Takamichi says it's all thanks to Violet's teaching. Suddenly, Helena asks Takamichi to leave Violet and become her dog, surprising everyone present. Just then, a bystander explains that Violet is Helena's target, so she's planning to humiliate her by stealing her dog. After this, Helena explains that Violet is a vulgar woman from a poor background who must have screwed her way to the top. In contrast, Helena describes herself as a noble of the Silence family who can't be compared to Violet. Without thinking, Takamichi agrees to be her dog, making Helena curious and the others furious. Seeing this, Regent slams the table and wonders if Takamichi is trying to embarrass Violet. Just then, Helena points out that it's too easy and wonders if Takamichi is trying to tease her. So she decides to test him by commanding him to kneel and lick her shoe. Hearing this, Regent charges Takamichi to avoid bringing shame to his master. But when Helena offers her boots and asks Takamichi if he would lick it, Takamichi grabs the opportunity, but takes it too far, making her waters break as she screams for him to stop. Seeing this, the eyes of the bystanders almost pops out of their sockets, while Takamichi shows Helena his flagpole and makes her freak out. Later at Heltera Witch Academy, some witches discuss the rumors about an amazing magic professor who taught the last class just one lesson and increased their level of magic. Hearing this, Melody says she doesn't believe it, while Luna doubts it too. Suddenly, someone welcomes Takamichi into the class, and he walks in accompanied by some ladies, asking when he'll return to their class. While Luna wonders why he's so popular, Takamichi adjusts his glasses and points at her. When she walks up to him, Takamichi asks if she wants to get strong, and she responds by saying any student of the academy would pay whatever it takes to become strong. So Takamichi whips up a suspicious-looking box and asks her to look into it. When she hesitates, Takamichi asks if she doesn't want to become strong, and she asks if all she has to do is look. Curious to see if it's a spell written in the box, Luna looks in, surprising her friends, who then rush to open the box. However, they find her slurping on Takamichi's candy stick, so Melody grabs Luna and asks Takamichi what he did to her. However, Melody also spots the sign and gets friendly with the candy stick, surprising everyone else in the class. Just then, Takamichi calls everyone's attention while juggling Luna's massive balloons and announces that he'll commence the special lesson. Some moments later, the class turns into a ditty party. The next day, Luna realizes her magic has become stronger, and before long, everyone in the class chats about how they've leveled up after enjoying Takamichi's class, while he spends 2 days in bed to recover. Sometime later, Violet walks through a mini crowd and announces that she brought some tea when she spots Takamichi slurping up Helena's rice cakes. Annoyed, Helena kicks him in the face and levitates while engulfed in flames. She then accuses Takamichi of dirtying her noble body and decides to burn him to a crisp. While the bystanders flee to avoid being burned, Takamichi figures Helena must be pretty good since she's better than most magic users. Suddenly, Helena activates her dragon fire explosion magic, which summons flaming dragons to attack Takamichi. However, after the explosion, the rubble clears, and Takamichi stands unburned, surprising Helena. Just then, a whirlwind clears up the smoke, and Helena figures it's Violet, so she says she has been waiting for her and adds that she should make the owner pay for her dog's crimes. Suddenly, Violet flashes across the room and appears behind Helena, who is shocked by her speed. However, when Violet strikes Helena, she gets repelled by an explosion, making her realize Helena has a passive flame shield. Excited, Helena tells Violet that she's not the only one who has improved, so Violet activates her evil eye and casts a circle with which she attacks Helena. But this only makes Helena's flame shield stronger, so she announces that Violet's wind only strengthens her fire. After this, Helena fires more attacks at Violet and hits her in a few places, but she refuses to back down and figures that she could destroy the fire shield by trapping air, which is the combustion material. Suddenly, Helena increases the power of her shield and states that Violet's wind magic is useless since it'll get engulfed by fire. Suddenly, Violet does her thing and traps the air within Helena's flame shield. While Helena realizes her shield won't last, Violet announces that her wind isn't magic but a privilege given to her by a demon. She then holds a knife to Helena's throat and adds that the nobility can't defeat her. Afterwards, Helena admits defeat and asks if there's a way she could beat Violet. In response, Violet says she's just not talented enough. On hearing this, Helena lets her inner demons out to play just to prove she can win. Helena's aide then dissuades her from using her ultimate spell, but she goes ahead and lets it all out. As a result of this, the flames blast Violet out of the building while Helena goes after her. She then states that the spell costs her vitality and threatens to erase Violet's weak wind magic with her flame. Suddenly, she summons a massive fireball in the sky, which sets the nearby roof on fire. Violet then tries to defend herself with different spells, but they don't work, so Violet tells her to stop, since the combustion will be bigger than she can control. But since Helena wouldn't listen, Takamichi blows out the fire with his mouth, surprising Helena that her flames could be erased in a single blow. After this, the wind blows on bystanders, and they think it's a tornado. However, someone states that Helena's transformation magic just got cancelled. Suddenly, Helena drops to the ground while her servants run towards her. Just when Violet tries to commend Takamichi for saving her, he shuts her mouth and reminds her that he's yet to overcome his weakness to light magic. So Violet asks why he was getting involved with Helena, and Takamichi explains that things would be easier if they win her over, since she's a daughter of one of the nobles. Meanwhile, Helena berates Takamichi for humiliating her repeatedly and threatens to end their relationship. But she passes out and begins to get lean. Shortly after, Irina, a healer, was summoned to treat her, but she tries and reveals that her remedy magic isn't helping. However, when Helena's subordinates beg her to find a way, Irina explains that it's not an injury or illness. In addition, she explains that the spell should be fatal to Helena since she only used it once. Hearing this, Helena tells Irina to stop wasting her magic and blames herself for being cocky. When Irina asks Helena how many times she used the spell, Helena reveals she used it 7 times, surprising everyone. Helena then confesses that she used the spell in her SS rank promotion mission as well as in some other missions just to compete with Violet. Takamichi then approaches Helena and plants a kiss on her lips, surprising her and everyone else. After this, Takamichi says he's only taking his reward for licking Helena's shoes, but Helena gets up furious and grabs his collar while threatening to end him. Suddenly, she realizes she's healed, surprising everyone, including Irina, who then checks her out. Meanwhile, Violet whispers and asks Takamichi what he did, and he explains that he simply turned his magic into vitality and gave it to her. Just then, Irina announces that Helena is healed and wonders how it happened. Helena then commends Takamichi for it and asks him to tell her how he pulled it off, but Takamichi says it's nothing and announces that its side effect is about to kick in. Suddenly, Helena gets startled as she jumps at Takamichi and straddles him. Confused, Helena asks what's happening since her body, moving by itself. When she calls Takamichi a man of culture, he claims he's not doing anything. Suddenly, Helena exposes his sausage and feasts on it ravenously. Meanwhile, Irina stops Helena's servants from interrupting since it might be part of Helena's complete recovery. After this, she states that the vitality in her is out of control, just like her lust. So she offers her honey pot to Takamichi, and he feasts on it. When they're done, Takamichi checks his status, while Helena asks him to devote himself to her. The next day, Marta gets furious when she inspects the damaged office of the Adventurers Association and figures it needs to be rebuilt. She then looks back and spots Takamichi, Violet, and Helena. So she figures it must be them and wraps her tail around Takamichi's head while scolding him for joining the association without telling her. Just then, Helena apologizes on Takamichi's behalf and offers to compensate for the damages. In response, Marta says she can't accept money and decides to get them a compulsory quest to complete. Hearing this, Takamichi says he's got plans to visit an elf brothel, while Helena also gave an excuse. However, Violet asks Marta for the details of the quest, and she reveals that it is a search for a missing person. When she adds that the target is the saint of the church, Takamichi gets interested and listens as Marta explains that Oasis, the saint, went with the sisters to help refugees at the front lines. But since then, communication has been cut off. Marta then states that they'll have to infiltrate enemy territory since the army is short-handed. Hearing this, Helena insists that she's not interested, but Takamichi says he's going to save Oasis, leaving the ladies puzzled. Somewhere in the mountains, some goblins search a dump of corpses for survivors while some girls hiding under the bodies stay still. Just when they thought the goblins were gone, they suddenly get pulled out and stripped bare by the monsters, who then decide to feast on them. While they violently feast on the ladies, a goblin gets pierced by spikes from the ground, while others get their heads blown off their necks. Just then, Takamichi and the ladies show up and finish off the remaining goblins. After this, Helena tells Takamichi that she accompanied him on the quest just to get him to teach her his vitality restoration trick. In response, Takamichi says that it's a hidden skill that dogs have. Afterwards, they question the rescued girls if they were a part of Oasis's escort squad. When the girls confirm this, they further explain that they were attacked by giant goblins like they've never seen before and got separated. After this, Violet asks about the others, and the ladies reveal that the men were eliminated while the women were forcefully clapped and taken away. Helena then states that some years back, the goblins were not as bad as they've been in recent times. Takamichi then comments that the goblins do it for fun and pleasure rather than reproduction. After this, he tastes goblin blood, and Helen freaks out, telling him to brush before kissing her. Ignoring this, Takamichi says the blood tastes like hell. The goblins are low-intelligence monsters that live in forests or caves and are hated by humans for their obsession with breeding with women. Because of this, the goblins have been subjugated by wandering adventurers thanks to their low intelligence and combat power. Over time, people forgot goblins ever existed and lived on. Until 2 years ago, some explorers went into a cave in search of treasure, but were met with a horrible stench. Just then, they stumbled on goblins throwing themselves a ditty party. Shocked, the explorers realize the women are the recently missing people, so they decide to save them, but to their dismay, the giant goblins show up. Ever since then, the goblins returned, stronger and smarter, to invade Heltera. Since the goblins would operate machines and use magic, the humans realized the goblins had changed. To make matters worse, the goblins shamed humans by abusing the captured ones in every way possible. In a space of 2 years, half of Heltera was lost to the goblins. One day at the Goblin warfront, the goblins rolled in their catapults and fired shots at the stone fortress. Seeing this, the soldiers raise an alarm and take up their shields. However, when they get hit, they realize it's not stone. Suddenly, they found disfigured corpses lying all around and realized they were the corpses of some guy who didn't return from a spying mission. The soldiers then figure it's not an attack, but a provocation while the goblins taunt them. Suddenly, many goblins get blasted by a flash of light from a hero's spear named Monica, surprising the soldiers. While staring at her brother's corpse on the floor, Monica apologizes for failing to protect him and casts a spell to burn his body. So the soldiers ask if she's the reinforcement, but Monica orders them to abandon the fortress. When the soldier claims they could fight with her around, Monica says it's an order from above and tells them she's there to aid their retreat. Just then, the soldiers point out that Oasis won't be able to catch up if they abandon the fortress, but Monica assures them that some elite adventurers have been dispatched. In the enemy territory, Violet returns to find her companions bound by the tentacles of a beast and crying for her to help them. Just then, the monster tries to absorb them, so Helena screams while Violet cuts down its tentacles and sets her friends free. After this, they check out the monster, and Helena points out that it's a scavenger. She then explains that it's a mutated species of goblin that cleans the battlefield and kidnaps humans to abuse them. Just then, Helena attacks it with her flame magic while claiming it's not as strong as it looks. However, to her dismay, the beast doesn't burn, so it picks her up WTH its tentacles while Violet screams her name. Suddenly, the beast gets impaled by multiple spikes from the ground. Takamichi then quickly catches Helena, surprising her that he saved her. After he tells her to keep her guard up, Takamichi points out that the beast came from underground. At that moment, Helena asks Takamichi how he has such a strong skill, but he says it's all thanks to a talisman, but Helena refuses to believe him. Suddenly, Takamichi signals to Violet, telling her to distract Helena, so Violet calls Helena. When she walks over and asks what is so important, Violet asks her to recommend a lipstick that's popular with men, surprising Helena, who then lashes out at Violet for wasting her time. While they thrash it out, Takamichi summons Canaloa and says he'd like to borrow his necromancy powers. Afterwards, he explains that the scavenger's memories might tell him what happened to its family, so Canaloa decides to help. Shortly afterwards, Takamichi enters the beast's memory and finds memories of it violating and abusing women. Just then, he spots the sisters in a cage and realizes they must still be alive. However, he dives deeper to find earlier memories. Not long after this, he finds the memory of the goblins when a woman offers to give them power. On looking closer, he realizes her black magic is pure and similar to that in hell. However, Takamichi realizes he's come to the end of the memories, so he gets out and reveals that he gathered some interesting information. Curious, Canaloa asks what he plans to do next, and Takamichi says he doesn't know the mastermind, but he has a clue about the sisters. So he announces that he's leaving to save the sisters while staring into the hole the monster dug. Canaloa then points out that it's dangerous, but Takamichi says he'll slay ministers if he finds them and clap women if he finds them. Suddenly, Takamichi communicates to Violet through telepathy and tells her to go back to a safe place. However, she says she'll go with him, but Takamichi jumps into the hole and tells her it's risky. Shortly after, he lands in the underground and finds no one. While he checks out the space and scattered cages, someone approaches behind him with a dagger, but he is quick to stop her. Just then, he realizes she is one of the sisters. Afterwards, Takamichi confirms that she's Oasis, the missing saint, while she reveals that she got kidnapped by a scavenger since she couldn't fight. In addition, she reveals that she escaped on the way and has been hiding ever since. When she apologizes for pulling a dagger on him and beats herself up for it, Takamichi finds this cute and watches her dote on him for a little longer. Afterwards, a goblin gets its face bashed in by Takamichi while they explore the underground. Oasis then commends Takamichi on being strong, but he says it's nothing. Shortly after this, they arrive in some ruins, and Oasis explains that it has been sealed for years till it became Goblin territory. While Oasis gives her tour guide speech, Takamichi says he wants to save the other women too. He then checks his skill and realizes he has unlocked his light magic resistance skill, so he decides to save the other sisters while checking out his new quest. Meanwhile, at the Goblin's base, the beasts continue to abuse their prisoners. Just then, a human commander lashes out, saying he couldn't violate a sister. However, the sister tells him that resisting will only get him killed and suggests he get on clapping her. Seeing his men threatened with a sword, he decides to get on with it. However, just as he almost finishes, he gets run through with a sword. While his men watched in horror, a weird-looking goblin showed up and suggested the next humans show them something better, since they're learning from them. Shocked to see a goblin speak, the humans freak out. So the goblin tells the next human to show them something good to avoid getting slain too. So the dude takes off the sister's shoes and shows them how it's done with the feet. Amused, the goblin tries it and smiles, making the dude ask if he feels good. However, he gets his skull bashed in for coming up with such a lame idea. After this, the goblin says that he thought of something better and pierces the sister's foot with a sword and says that if there's no hole, he has to create one. Suddenly, someone shows up and asks the goblin to stop, annoying the goblin, who then asks who he is. Just then, the goblin's head gets pierced by an arrow, surprising the humans, while the goblin wonders where the attacker is. Out of nowhere, someone jumps and smashes a giant goblin's skull with a giant hammer. Just then, Amos, Irina, and Sumi, the elite adventurers sent by the association, announced that they had come to save the people. Back in Heltera, Marta informs Belial that elite adventurers have been dispatched and should safely rescue the sisters. In addition to this, she adds that a majority of the enemy large goblins have been conquered and chips in that the nobles are starting to get serious. After this, Marta asks Belial if the war will end soon if the heroes start moving, but Belial tells her not to get complacent, yet since several unheard things have occurred in the past years. After she states that a danger that exceeds their imaginations could appear, Belial rises and suggests they return. Meanwhile, at the goblins' base, multiple goblins attack Amos, but he pulls a backflip and fires a fatal arrow that hits multiple goblins at once. At the same time, Sumi bashes multiple goblins into each other with her giant hammer. Suddenly, the giant goblin tries to crush her with a club, surprising Sumi that he's recovered. So she evades the attack and thanks Irina for her help. However, Irina tells her to focus on the battle while attending to the wounded. Just then, the elite adventurers come together and size up their opponent, the giant goblin called the Goblin King. Despite his many perks, the SS rank adventurers prepare to attack and suddenly dash towards the Goblin King. Seeing this, the Goblin King swings his club, but Sumi dashes around him, saying she can't get hit with a heavy body like his. However, to her surprise, the Goblin King jumps high and slams his club into the ground, sending shock waves strong enough to knock her down. While she wonders what a hit to her head would do to her, she figures her work is done, since the Goblin King is trapped with magical chains. While the Goblin King struggles to break free, Sumi informs Irina that he's stuck, so she picks up her staff and reinforces the circle to make it hold for much longer. Meanwhile, from a distance, Amos draws his magical arrow and aims for the Goblin King. He then embellishes his arrow with devastating attributes and states that he knows the goblin's weakness. Suddenly, Amos' arrow lights up as he fires it through the belly of the Goblin King, leaving a hole in the giant as the arrow takes out its heart. Afterwards, the captured humans help each other up, while the elite adventurers commend Amos on the good work. In response, Amos says he got his arrows enhanced in order to defeat the Goblin King. Just then, they hear someone tell them not to call the giants Goblin Kings. When Amos turns to look, he realizes it's the talking goblin from before. Surprised to see it alive, Sumi threatens to send it to hell and attacks it with her hammer, but the goblin stops it with his hand, and to Tsumi's surprise, he turns it into confetti. The goblin then asks if she's really a hero class and threatens to clap her first. Will Takamichi unlock the ultimate skill on his skill tree? To find out, comment away with the goblins. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for similar content. Thanks for watching.